Let's take a look at leadership and trust. Leadership is the process of influencing employees to work towards achieving objectives. Power and politics are also about influencing. There are two age-old leadership questions. Are leaders born or made, and can leadership skills be developed? Research shows that leadership skills can be developed. Teaching leadership theories contributes to developing leader skills. Happiness and success in our personal and professional lives are based on our relationships. Good relationships are based on trust. A survey revealed that 74% of engaged employees trust their manager, while only 14% don't trust their boss. Would you go above and beyond what is expected, work harder for a boss you didn't trust? In turn, managers need to be able to trust employees. People tend to use terms manager and leader interchangeably. However, they're different. Leading is one of the four management functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Thus, management gives position power and is broader in scope than leadership, but leadership is critical to management success. A manager can have a position without being a true leader. There are managers, you may know of some, who are not leaders because they do not have the trust and the ability to influence others. There are also good leaders who aren't good managers. An informal leader, an employee group member, is a case in point. Today, leadership is a serial emergence of both official and unofficial leaders as part of a simultaneous, ongoing, mutual influence process as in participative leadership. Hence, all leadership is shared leadership. There are four major classifications of leadership theory. All four theories have the same goal of determining what it takes to be an effective leader. The theories have a historical development progressing from trait to behavioral to situational to contemporary leadership theories. Leadership theory has been underdeveloped, so leadership evolution continues. The development of leadership theory began with trait theory. Early leadership studies were based on the assumptions that leaders are born, not made. Researchers wanted to identify the characteristics or traits that distinguished leaders from followers or effective leaders from ineffective ones. Leadership trait theorists attempt to determine a list of distinctive characteristics that account for leadership effectiveness. Researchers analyzed physical and psychological traits such as appearance, aggressiveness, self-reliance, persuasiveness, and dominance in an effort to identify a set of traits that all successful leaders possess. Our personality is made up of traits, and thus personality is an important part of trait theory because personality affects a leader's behavior. If researchers could have come up with a universal list of traits, managers could select only leaders possessing all traits and predict they would succeed as leaders. Unfortunately, the theory didn't work because in 70 years, more than 300 trait studies were conducted. However, no one was able to compile a universal list of traits that all successful leaders possess. Organizations continue to hire and train for traits that contribute to their success. In the continuing quest to find the best leadership style for all situations, by the late 1940s, most leadership research focused on behavior of leaders rather than on analyzing their traits. Behavioral leadership theorists attempt to determine styles used by effective leaders. Leadership style is the combination of traits, skills, and behaviors managers use. Note that behavioral theorists focus on leaders' behaviors. However, behaviors are based on traits and skills, and the leader's behavior affects others' behavior. In the 1930s, before behavioral theory became popular, research was conducted by Kurt Lewin and associates at the University of Iowa on the managerial leadership style. These studies identified three leadership styles: autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. Two-dimensional leadership styles are four possible leadership styles. In 1945, the Personnel Research Board of The Ohio State University began a study to determine effective leadership styles. In the process, researchers developed an instrument known as the Leader Behavior Description Questionnaire, known as the LBDQ. Respondents to the questionnaire perceived leaders' behavior on two distinct dimensions. Structuring, the extent to which the leader takes charge to plan, organize, lead, and control as the employee performs the task. This dimension focuses on getting the job done. Consideration, the extent to which the leader communicates to develop trust, friendship, support, and respect. This dimension focuses on developing relationships with employees. At approximately the same time as the Ohio State University studies began, the University of Michigan Survey Research Center initiated its own leadership studies. This research identified the same two dimensions or styles of leadership behavior as the Ohio research. However, the Michigan researchers called the two styles job-centered and employee-centered. When interacting with employees, the manager can focus on getting the job done through directing, structuring, or job-centered behavior, and/or through developing supportive relationships, consideration, or employee-centered behavior. The Ohio State and University of Michigan leadership models are different in that the Michigan places the two leadership behaviors on the opposite end of a same continuum, making it a one-dimensional with two styles. The Ohio State University model considers the two behaviors independent from one another. It's two-dimensional. The leadership grid builds on the Ohio State and Michigan studies. It's based on the same two leadership dimensions they called concern for production and concern for people. The ideal leadership style incorporates high concern for both production and people. A questionnaire is used to measure a manager's concern for people and production on a scale from 1 to 9, 1 being low concern and 9 being high concern. 5 major leadership styles are highlighted on the grid. 1-1, the leader is an impoverished management style and has a low concern for both production and people. 9-1, the leader with an authority compliance management style has a high concern for production and a low concern for people. 1-9, the leader with a country club management style has a high concern for people and a low concern for production. 5-5, the leader with a middle-of-the-road management style has a balanced medium concern for both production and people. 9-9, the leader with a team management style has a high concern for both production and people. This leader strives for maximum performance and employee satisfaction. Like with trait theory's inclusive finding, behavioral theories couldn't find one style that researchers agreed was the best style to use in all situations. Today, we know that leaders use different behavioral approaches to influence employees. In 1951, Fred E. Fielder began to develop the first situational approach to leadership, the contingency theory of leader effectiveness. Fielder believed that one's leadership style reflects one's personality and remains basically constant. The contingency model determines if the leadership style is task or relationship oriented. The first step is to determine whether your leadership style is task or leadership oriented. To do so, you find what Fielder called the least preferred coworker scale. The LPC essentially answers the question, do you use a more task-oriented or relationship-oriented leadership style in working with others? After determining leadership style, you determine situational favorableness. This refers to the degree to which a situation enables you to exert influence over followers. The more control you have over followers, the more favorable the situation. The 3 variables that determine situational favorableness are as follows. Is the relationship between you and your followers good or poor? Is the task structured, repetitive, or routine, or unstructured, not repetitive? Do you have position power? After determining your leadership style, you can answer the 3 questions pertaining to situational favorableness by following a decision tree to discover the best decision or leadership style in a given situation. If your preferred leadership style is not ideal for the given situation, then the situation must be changed to match your style. You can change the relationship, the task, or your power. One of the major criticisms of contingency theory is that it's often difficult to change a situation. Critics say that when a manager's leadership style does not match the situation, the style should be changed. All other situational leadership theories disagree with the changing situation. Researchers developed a model of leadership that focuses on who makes decisions. They viewed leadership behavior on a continuum from autocratic, boss-centered, to participative, employee-centered. The continuum includes 7 major styles from which a leader can choose. The leadership continuum model is used to determine which of the 7 styles of leadership on a continuum from autocratic, boss-centered, to participative, employee-centered is best for a given situation. Before selecting one of the leadership styles, the leader must consider 3 variables. The path goal model is used to determine employee objectives and how to achieve them. The model focuses on how leaders influence employees' perceptions of their goals and the paths they follow towards goal attainment. Subordinate situational factors are 1. Authoritarianism, 2. Locus of control, and 3. Ability. Environmental situational factors are 1. Task structure, 2. Formal authority, and 3. Work groups. Based on the situational factors, a leader can select the most appropriate of the following leadership styles. The leader provides high structure. Directive leadership is appropriate when subordinates want authoritarian leadership, have an external locus of control, and have low ability. The leader provides high consideration. Supportive leadership is appropriate when subordinates do not want authoritarian leadership, have an internal locus of control, and have a high ability. The leader considers employee input when making decisions. Participative leadership is appropriate when subordinates want to be involved, have an internal locus of control, and have high ability. The leader sets difficult but achievable goals, expects subordinates to perform at their highest level, and rewards them for doing so. In essence, the leader provides both high structure and high consideration. Achievement-oriented leadership is also appropriate when the task is simple. Victor Vroom and his colleagues at Yale University developed participative decision-making models that integrate leadership and decision-making process. It's called the normative because the model tells users which style to use for their situation. There are actually 2 versions of the model called time-driven and development-driven based on the decision being made. It also has 7 questions to answer to select one of 5 leadership styles Vroom calls decide, consult individual, consult group, facilitate, and delegate. The normative leadership model is popular in the academic community because it's based on research from more than 100,000 managers. Vroom now has an electronic model to support. However, the model is not very popular with managers who find it cumbersome. The situational leadership model is used to select one of 4 leadership styles. The model identifies 4 leadership styles expanding on Ohio State, and the user can select a leadership style that matches the situation. A select leadership style, you determine the follower's maturity level, which refers to the level of employee development or readiness to do the job. Hershey has used a baseball metaphor to explain how this model helps managers. The model can help you increase your batting average. The behavioral and situational leadership models are based on 2 dimensions of leadership. However, as you've seen, different authors use different terms for what are basically the same dimensions. You can make a comparison of the behavioral and situational leadership models to describe these 2 dimensions of leadership. These are high direction, low support, and high direction, high support, and so on. The leadership theories and models that have been discussed assume that leadership style will be effective in each situation. Substitutes for leadership are characteristics of the task, of subordinates, or of the organization. These characteristics can neutralize the effect of leadership behavior. That is, the following may substitute for or neutralize leadership by providing direction or support, characteristics of the task, subordinates, and the organization. For routine tasks with highly skilled subordinates in mechanistic structured organizations, employees don't need supervisory instructions. Today, with shared leadership in teams, there's less need for a manager. Leadership is no longer about bossing or being in control. There's a trend towards the bossless organization. Some organizations are saying that they have too many leaders and too few followers, so they're now training employees in followership. Followership is about taking responsibility for shared goals and telling leaders the truth. Leader-member exchange theory is based on social exchange relationships between leaders and followers. LMX's core contribution is its explicit emphasis on the unique dyadic relationships that develop between leaders and each of their subordinates, rather than on the general effects of leader traits and behavior. Effective leader-member exchange leaders create positive relationships with each individual. The current focus on LMX is developing positive relationships. Past LMX research focused on in and out groups. Have you ever been in a group in which the leader liked you and were more of a member of the in group, like favorites or cliques? Or have you ever been in the out group? Not surprisingly, the members of the in group get better assignments, receive higher performance ratings, and have greater job satisfactions and often higher level performance. LMX leaders sometimes end up with the two groups fighting for power and using unethical politics. So we need to be inclusive in developing positive relationships with everyone without creating any out groups. When you get a job, often your manager will believe you should be in the in group. If there's a clear in and out group, you should be able to recognize the members, as the out group tends to try to recruit new members to their coalition. Belonging in the in group has its career benefits for sure. Visionary and charismatic leadership is often associated with top-level strategic management. Leadership tends to stress the role of charismatic individuals in setting compelling visions to which all organization members are expected to subscribe, but a leader can be both or just one of the other or neither. Visionary leaders create an image of the organization in the future. They believe that they're capable of creating a significant part of the future and controlling its effects on them. Visionary leaders try to prevent threats, not merely prepare for them, and to create opportunities, not merely exploit them. They envision a desirable future and invent ways of bringing it out. Charismatic leaders inspire loyalty, enthusiasm, and high levels of performance. Their confident, dynamic, personal traits and behavior enable them to develop strong relationships with followers they might not even know personally, giving them strong influence over follower behavior and performance. Charismatic leaders articulate a clear vision that's based on strongly held values, model those values, communicate high performance expectations, and display confidence in followers' ability to achieve the vision. Followers, in turn, trust charismatic leaders, are loyal to them, and are inspired to work hard. Transformational leadership tends to come from top management, whereas transactional leadership is more associated with lower levels of management. Both affect performance, and the two are commonly compared. Transformational leaders bring out continuous learning, innovation, and change. Transformational leaders are motivational, as transformers gain acceptance of the mission and group's purpose and motivate followers to go beyond, transcend their own self-interest for the good of the organization and the group. Many charismatic leaders are also visionary and transformational leaders, but not all. Transformational leaders are especially needed in firms with growth strategies competing in dynamic environments. Transactional leadership is a leadership style based on social exchange. The exchange involves the principle that you do this work for me and I'll give this reward to you, and I'll punish you if you don't. Transactional leaders are described as task and reward oriented, structured, and passive. Transactional leadership occurs mostly among middle and first-line managers. People want leaders, but they reject self-serving, inauthentic leaders. These two theories are in an earlier stage of development than the others. Servant leaders are good stewards of organizational interests. Servant leaders focus on helping others by placing their needs ahead of self-interest. This is an act of true friendship. Servant leadership is based on the premise that leaders who are best able to motivate followers are those who focus on prioritizing the fulfillment of followers' needs ahead of self-interest. Servant leaders understand that leadership is never about you, it's about them. Authentic leaders develop open, honest, trusting relationships. Authentic leaders emphasize building legitimacy through honest relationships with followers, seeking their input, their voice, to improve performance. They lead by example. People look for authenticity and often spot a phony, such as when a narcissist is nice to you just to get something from you. Recall the importance of relationships in our personal and professional lives. We can only be on our best behavior for so long before we reveal our true self. Do you understand the need for unselfish, authentic behavior?